So how could they have read the same report and have two starkly different conclusions? And is Jagmeet Singh willing to use his supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals to force the government to act? I spoke with the NDP leader earlier today. Welcome back to Power Play, Mr. Singh. Thanks so much for being with us.
Pleasure to be here.
So yesterday, your comments were in stark contrast to how Ms. May characterized the unredacted report. What in that report made you more alarmed than before you read the unredacted version?
I think a part of why, and I don't want to debate another MP, but part of the reason why I had the response I did is I came into the reading of the report with one of the goals was there were some serious conclusions, incendiary conclusions, if I might say, that came out of the NSICOP publicly available report. I wanted to know if I read the unredacted report, would it confirm those conclusions or would it in any way cast some doubt on those conclusions? I came out of reading the unredacted version where it provides even more detail about the conclusions that the committee reached, being more alarmed, more disturbed than ever, and I maintain that. So the conclusion, and it's important for the viewers to know, the conclusion of the report is a result of a number of members of parliament and senators all working together, hearing countless hours of evidence from intelligence officers and other documents, compiling that information into a report, and what we have publicly is the redacted version of that. So they saw a lot of information that got them to this point where they were deeply worried and provided us with this report. I can tell you, having read the unredacted version, it only bolsters that concern. It even heightens the worry that people felt when they first read the publicly available. You should feel even more alarmed.
But you went even further than the report because you called MPs who wittingly or unwittingly helped foreign agents traitors. That's a very strong word. What makes you believe that those people are traitors?
On paragraph 164 of the publicly available report, the report goes through and outlines some of the steps that were some of the concerns that were raised. And they talk about sensitive Canadian information, government information being revealed to foreign intelligence officers. They talk about undermining of Canada's interest. They talk about people receiving public funds knowingly or in some cases that they're willfully blind, receiving foreign funding for their campaigns. All of that is clear to me behavior that is of someone who's a traitor to Canada. There's no other way to look at that. And so I maintain that, and it is deeply concerning, and I maintain my criticism of both the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, having known about this and not taken sufficient action, and Pierre Poilievre, who I believe is disqualified as a leader when there are clear allegations of foreign interference that directly touch on his party, and he refuses to even know what's in that. What are those allegations? What are the details? To me, that disqualifies him as leader. No leader that puts the interests of their party beyond the interests of the country has any merit leading the country.
And I'll get to those leaders in just a moment and what should be done about them. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think should be done about those members of parliament or former members of parliament that are being called traitors? What action should be taken against them?
Well, I've said that there has to be a way that we let these parliamentarians know that we know what they're up to. There has to be a way that does that. That doesn't undermine national security.
But just let them know, or do you think that there should be something, should there be charges against them? If you're calling them traitors, do you just want to call them out, or do you want some more action against them?
Well, I think the NSICOP report does a good job of saying that some activities are illegal and should have resulted in criminal action or criminal charges, but unlikely because of changes to the law. So we need to make sure the laws are stronger to allow for those charges to be laid. And then all of the behavior is characterized as unethical. And so one of the things that we can do as party leaders, and I've said this is a responsibility of every party leader, to make sure you look at the information that's available. And then we vet out people in running for our party based on an egregious tweet or an egregious social media post. If there is information where they're alleged to be involved in foreign interference, that should be grounds for that person to not sit in caucus and certainly not to run under the party's banner. So I would call on all party leaders to do that. I can say on my behalf, nothing that I've read and none of the information I've received gives cause for me to take any additional action. I'm wording it that way very specifically for national security interests. But I call on every leader to do the same. Look at the information and make sure that no one is allowed to run in an upcoming election who has allegations of foreign interference.
At the same time, Mr. Singh, there is action that you could take. You've called out the so-called failure of leadership of Justin Trudeau to not take action sooner. But you're in this unique position as opposition leader with your supply and confidence agreement with this government. You have access to the Prime Minister that others don't. So what will you be doing going forward to use that relationship in order for him to take action?
Well, we've shown through a series of events what we have done so far, and we'll build on that work. The fact that we have a public inquiry in the first place is because of New Democrats. We're the first party to call for it. We consistently push for it. Now we have it. The Liberals said no initially. They said no to any action. Then they agreed to a special rapporteur, which we thought was not the best idea from the beginning. Then we forced the removal of the special rapporteur by having a vote in Parliament asking for him to step down. After that vote, he did indeed step down. And then we pushed for a public inquiry, and now we have it. In that public inquiry, we've expanded the mandate. Once it became clear the Indian government's foreign interference, we made sure it was included, and it was included. Now we're saying that that public inquiry should also include the names of the MPs, as well as the Conservative leadership race, the races that were implicated in the report. Those are the steps that we're taking. We're going to continue to use the power we have to push for accountability and transparency. I want to be clear on this, though. If we were not in this minority government, if New Democrats weren't there, a majority Liberal under Justin Trudeau or a majority Conservative under Pierre Poilievre would have never moved forward on this, because it's clear they're more interested in protecting their own parties than the country. But we have shown our action, and we're going to continue to do that.
And I take that point, but at the same time, we're in a minority government, and you have this unique ability to be able to push the Liberals to take action. And it doesn't mean that you have to force an election by having the government fall. So why not, in that supply and confidence agreement, really turn the screws on this government to make them take action now?
I said we have, and we will continue to do so. We got the public inquiry, and now we're going to push for more action.
Last question for you. Based on what you've seen in that unredacted report, are you worried about Canada's ability to hold a free and fair election right now at this moment?
I think that what the report and other documents have shown is that the outcome of the election would not have been changed, but I am worried about the impacts on the confidence people have in our democratic institutions. And I want to see steps taken to restore more confidence given these serious allegations of foreign interference. The confidence in our electoral system is very important. And so while the outcome may have not been influenced, there's certainly elements of influence that erode public trust, and that's something we've got to fix. I want people to feel fully confident they can vote the way they want to vote. They're going to get results that are free from interference. And right now, there's a lot of doubt, I think, cast around that, and that has to be addressed before the next election.
But based on what you have seen, do you have confidence in this country to be able to hold a free and fair election despite all of the foreign interference that you have seen in that unredacted report?
I would say in terms of the overall result of the election, I'm confident that there's not enough interference that will undermine the overall result. But there are very concrete examples of interference influencing other elements, and that is unresolved.
In what other elements are you talking about? Leadership races and candidacy nomination races?
Yes. Yeah, so the concerns that have been outlined in the publicly available information are related to leadership races, are related to the Conservative leadership races specifically, nomination, candidacy, and those are areas where there's clearly work that needs to be done.
And so what concretely needs to be done in time for the next election so that everybody can have that faith that the person they're voting for was put in that place in a free and fair manner?
That's a great question. I think part of that is the recommendations coming out of the public inquiry. I think that'll go a long way. The recommendations of the NSICOP report called for certain action, which is being taken in Bill C-70. So those are some of the steps that were required. We need to see that bill passed. We need to see the impact of that bill. And we need to see the public inquiry recommendations presented and also implemented.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh, thanks so much for joining us today.
Certainly.